All right, let's start with some shout outs. Aubrey Chapman, Lamar Clemens, Jim Eris, Scott Sundance, Mike Speece. Latest GoFundMe donors. People had sent some Venmo and PayPal as well. It's on a different list. I'll give you guys a shout out on one of the upcoming videos. Certainly appreciate the donations. Remember, I'm still doing the $60 package. You get a signed copy of my book, signed blotter, and you get a Boston George apparel item. Thank you, Boston George and Boston George Apparel, for donating items to me to help me get back on my feet. Certainly appreciate it. And if you guys want to do the $60 package or do another donation, you can do Venmo, PayPal, or GoFundMe. Information will be listed in the pinned comment in the description. The album is done. I'm hoping to release it before Christmas. It was supposed to come out Thanksgiving. My friend Paul passed away, and that derailed things for me. He had done a guest appearance on it, and I wanted to have him included. And then Johnny Depp, I had asked him to do a guest appearance as well. Him and I have been playing phone tag. We've talked about it 3 or 4 times, and I really want Johnny on it. That's the last thing holding it up. I'm going to reach out to him again tomorrow. He's on an island right now, and I don't know what's going on with him, but I really wanted Johnny on it, but I also want to release the album. So if I can't get him to do it, if I can't connect with him to actually get the recording done, then I'll just put him on the next one. But I'll do an update video whenever that's going to drop, and I'm hoping that it's either on Christmas or a couple days before it. But it's done. It's ready to go. And I'd gotten a strike from YouTube a couple nights ago, and I appealed it, and I won. I'm definitely going to try very hard to stay within the community guidelines and rules from this point forward. Sorry, YouTube. I certainly look at this platform as a privilege. I love engaging with you guys, and I don't want to piss YouTube off. So I'm fortunate that my account's not suspended now, and I can keep putting content up. Let's get to the story. This is the Relapse Part 4. Now, where we had left off last time, Casey had come back from Pittsburgh, and I was strung out like a fucking lab rat. Tried to do the Cruel Intentions emulation, and it didn't go well because I was greasy. I had acne, and I looked like a junkie. Then I jumped out of her moving car. I cut myself, and then I tried to beat up her Uber driver because I didn't even know what Uber was. This is in 2015. It was a brand new service at the time, and I thought that I thought she was like cheating on me with this guy, good-looking tan guy. Of course I thought that. And so I ended up getting a motel in Chatsworth, which is like the porn capital of the world. Chatsworth is in the San Fernando Valley. It's where Boogie Nights takes place, somewhere around there. It's where they make all the porn. It's where all the big porn companies are located. And it's just like a seedy part of the valley. Hate to admit it, but I fit in famously right there. And I was alone in this motel, and I was going through it. Remember, I'm strung out. I'm blowing her up. She doesn't want to talk to me. Finally, she calls me at like 4 in the morning, and she's like, listen, I'm lonely. She was staying at a different motel in North Hollywood. Made no sense. She had a condo, but I guess she just didn't want to stay there anymore. So she's at a motel because I think she said she was scared of me coming back. I don't know why she was scared of me. I think it was my erratic behavior. But she said, I want you to come over to the motel, and I just want to sleep next to you. Just cuddle. Don't want to have sex. Doesn't mean we're getting back together. I just, I feel alone, and I want you to come by. So I jumped at the opportunity. I go by, and, I sleep in the same bed with her. Wake up the next morning around 10 a.m. I'm dope sick, filmed in sweat, and, I have to go to the bathroom and get well. She knows what I'm doing in there, so this makes her furious, and she's yelling at me from the other side of the door, basically asking if I'll take her up to Santa Barbara. Now, her birthday's coming up in a few days, and my reading up in Berkeley with Jo Clifford, I think it's a couple days before or after that, I don't know, somewhere in there. It was years ago at this point, but I decided to take her up to Santa Barbara, and I said, well, where are you going to go? And she said that she had somebody paying for a hotel room up there. Instantly, of course, I think it's the good-looking tan guy, the Uber driver. What else would I think? And I agreed to take her up there because I'm trying to be on her good side at this point. We drive up to Santa Barbara, and remember, my parents won't let me stay with them unless I go to treatment. And I'm refusing to go to treatment. I don't remember. I think I stayed with my friend Jeff when I went up there. I did. I stayed with Jeff, and I dropped her off at this really like nice hotel on the beach. She said her friend was paying for it, but I didn't know what the fuck that meant. And I'm assuming the worst. So for the next few days, I'm getting loaded in Santa Barbara. I'm continuing being strung out. And I was supposed to, when I was going up to this reading, I was supposed to go stay with Jo Clifford. Now, Jo Clifford, as I had mentioned in some of the earlier videos, he wrote Junkie Love, you know, a memoir about his years being homeless on the Tenderloin in San Francisco before he cleaned up and became a best-selling author. So he was a recovering junkie. And the plan was, when we first started talking, when I'd asked him for the blurb, when he had asked me to come do the Lip Service West, this reading that I was about to go do in Berkeley, and before we had booked the Jerry Stahl reading, which was coming up in September, I was still 3 years sober at that point. So his initial impression of me was somebody that was in recovery, someone that was at least clean and sober at the time. And I was supposed to go stay with him when I was going to do this reading. So the reading was before Casey's birthday. And I was supposed to stay with him. He has 2 little kids, and he's got a wife, and he's got a beautiful house up in Northern California, right next to San Francisco, somewhere in the East Bay. And Casey had sent him a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, Joe, just so you know, Ryan relapsed and he's strung out, and I think that it's important for you to know that he's using so that he doesn't come to your house strung out on heroin around your kids." And I was furious at her. I mean, it's like, why would you do that to me? So Joe had called me and he said, "Hey, Casey sent me kind of an alarming message on Facebook and said that you're using. I know you're about to come up for the reading. Is this true?" And I said, "Listen, Joe, I did slip. I've transitioned onto Suboxone, so I'm not using heroin anymore." I was lying, of course. I think I was talking to him on the phone. I think I had it on speaker in my lap, and I was like, had a tourniquet around my arm, and I was like looking for a vein. I honestly think that that's what was happening right at that time. But I convinced him that I was sober. So he said, "Okay, I mean, if you're sober, then you can still stay with me." But he seemed incredulous at this. You know, he didn't seem to believe me. And he was a little apprehensive about having me stay with him because Casey had really painted a picture that I was this like diabolical junkie. That if I came to his house and he had any copper in any of his bathroom or kitchen appliances, that I was going to go pawn it because that's how hardcore of a junkie I was. Whatever she had told him, I could tell he was very apprehensive about me staying with him. So it comes time for the reading, and my mom and dad are still talking to me every day. Just because they won't let me stay at their house doesn't mean that they've cut off communication with me. They're still talking to me. They're very concerned about me. They know I'm strung out. I'm speaking raspy, and I'm just a different person when I'm using. You know, I don't call them as frequently. But my mom had offered to take me up to Northern California. She said, "Hey, I don't want you driving up there when you're using. Why don't I drive you up there?" And her mom lived up in South City, South San Francisco. We'll go up there. I'll go stay with, she was going to go stay with my grandma. I'll give you a ride, and, you know, you can go stay with Joe or whatever. I said, "Okay, cool." So my mom gives me a ride up to Berkeley. Now, the whole time, Casey is telling me that she just needs space. That's what she keeps saying. She needs space from me. And well, what does that mean? Can we talk like once a day? And she's like, "We can talk on my terms. If I call you, we can talk, but don't call me." And it was driving me crazy because I wanted to call her because I didn't know what was going to happen with my relationship. You know, it was like, it was really up in the air. I mean, I didn't know if it was over, if it was still salvageable. I didn't know what was going on with it. Go up to Berkeley, and it's another thing. It's like, she was such a big cheerleader for me. It was the reality of the situation and like what I had lost already from my relapse was when she wasn't going with me to this event, because normally she was right there with me for anything like this I did. This was my second reading, but it's something that we had definitely planned on going to together, and I was sad that she wasn't going to be there with me. Now, we get up to San Francisco, and while we're driving, I'm on Facebook Messenger, and I'm looking for anyone that I know that's up in San Francisco, because I have a habit and I'm going to have to get more heroin. And I end up reaching out to this guy, Alex. Now, if anyone has listened to or read my book, Wasting Talent, Damien's basically me, and his best friend in the book is named Alex. Alex was based off a person that's name is Alex in real life. And Alex lived up in San Francisco. I hadn't seen Alex since I was probably, 21 years old. And at this point, I'm 30. So I hadn't seen him in like 10 years. And I reached out to him and I explained the situation. I said, hey, Alex, I'm coming up to San Francisco. I'm strung out. Can you take care of me while I'm up there? He said, yeah, absolutely, no problem. I said, all right, cool. So we go up there and we go to my grandma's house. I remember I shot up in the bathroom right when I got there. It was very hard for my grandma's health was in decline. It was hard for me to be around her and just to face the reality of it, especially strung out as I was. And I slept there. It was like on a Friday night. Slept there that night, woke up the next day, and I met Alex. My mom had dropped me off in Berkeley because the reading was going to be that night, and I met up with Alex in the morning. Alex brought me a gram of heroin, and he brought me a couple grams of coke. I didn't ask for the coke, he just brought it. So I started doing speedballs all day. And we go to a bar around 4 o'clock, start drinking. Now, remember, I really haven't been drinking. That night that I had bought the bottle of champagne that I brought to Jeff's house, I never even ended up drinking because we were shooting speedballs all night. Alex takes me to a bar, and it was probably the first time I had had a drink in 3 years. So I have a couple of Jack and Coke doubles. I'm doing speedballs all day. And I show up at this reading at about probably 6 o'clock. I think, I was supposed to go on at 9. And I show up at this reading. They have free wine. They have like the free little hors d'oeuvres. And Jo Clifford's there. And I meet him for the first time. And I also meet one of his best friends, a guy named Tom Pitts. Tom Pitts is also an author that I like a lot. He wrote a book called Hustle. If you're looking for a good book to read, I encourage you to read Hustle or Junkie Love. This is what these guys wrote, and they're great books. And these guys all thought that I was clean. There's no way to act clean when you're shooting speedballs. When you're mixing cocaine and heroin, you're doing it IV, you just don't act normal. I'm pacing, I'm lighting up a cigarette, I'm taking 2 drags, stubbing it out really quick, saying weird shit, and they were kind of like looking at me like, is this guy for real? This guy is completely twacked out on something. They had free wine at the reading, and I go in there, and they had these little styrofoam cups, and I just start pounding wine. There were 7 writers reading at this event, and I was the last one to go on. I had asked Jo, I said, hey, can I be the last one to go on? I just wanted to get a feel for how these other writers were doing it, because I didn't have a lot of experience reading publicly. So he said, that's fine. So I'm sitting in the audience. Now, even though the wine's free, people would get like maybe 1 cup. It was a social thing. I got to the point where I'm hitting it out of the bottle, and I'm hoping that nobody can see. I'm sure a lot of people saw it, but I'm like swigging out of the bottle. I'm trying to cover it with like one hand, like that's gonna fucking do anything. The bottle's huge, and I'm just kind of like trying to drink it. People are giving me bad looks. It's just becoming disastrous. I'm like, God, by the time I get up and read in front of these people, I'm gonna bomb for sure. And so it comes to my time. I go up there, and the microphone's like, a lot taller than me. I have to pull it down, and I think the first thing I say is, I'm sorry, I'm short, I snorted cocaine in high school, or something like, I don't know why I decided to say that as like the icebreaker. This video is up on my channel. It's called The Baker Brothers. I'll put a link for it in the description. And I say something like, I'm fucking short, sorry, I snorted cocaine in high school. You can definitely tell if you watch that video how loaded I am right here. I've been shooting speedballs for the last like 4 or 5 hours. Now I'm completely shit-faced off red wine. And I go up there and I think I did a relatively good job considering. Now, you know, I finish off. There's a bunch of, you know, everyone applauds. And I feel really good about it. You know, it's like whenever you do public speaking, or at least when I used to. I've done it so much now in my career, but in the beginning I'd be really nervous, and then right when it's finished, right when you're walking off stage, it's just like this weight's been lifted off of you. And so we wrap it up. Alex ends up taking off. I don't remember where he went, but he left. And so it's just Joe and I. And I tell Joe, I'm like, hey man, can we go like to a bar, get a drink? Joe's looking at me very concerned, because he knows that I'm a train wreck. And he also knows that he has to bring me to his house with his 2 kids and his wife. And it's probably not going to go over well because I'm completely shit-faced. But he's a good sport. He's a nice guy. And he agrees to take me to a bar. Now, Joe's like not a bar type of guy. He's not a nightclub type of guy. And he takes me to some like straight raging nightclub. And he's just kind of like standing there in the corner looking like he's having a really bad time. So he says, hey, Ryan, I got a bottle of Gentleman Jack back at my place. Why don't we just go back to my house? We can drink there. You can meet my wife. We can talk politics, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go up to his place. He's got a beautiful house. And sure enough, we drink some Gentleman Jack and we start talking politics. This was in 2015. I think people were just starting to talk about Bernie. We had a long discussion about Bernie Sanders. And I remember the night ending with me puking up red wine in the toilet of the guest bathroom. And that's really all I remember. You know, I had a lovely time with his wife and him. I mean, we were talking and we were drinking and we were all getting along. Everything seemed cool. All I remember from the end of the night is hugging a toilet and puking up this red wine. Next day I wake up, it's probably 7 in the morning, and I'm dope sick. Now, anyone that's ever been strung out on opiates or heroin knows that one of the first things that happens when you're dope sick is your sense of smell becomes amplified. So if you smell like shit, you really smell like shit. And there's this signatory stench of withdrawal. It smells like ammonia. This just toxic ammonia seeping out of your pores. It's the only thing that I can compare it to, ammonia. And I could smell my dope sickness. I'm covered in sweat. I'm hungover. I haven't been hungover for years, and I just felt horrible, right? Sorry about the phone. Usually I use the camera, but I don't have the tripod thing set up, so I apologize that I keep adjusting it. But anyway, so I go into the bathroom, and there's just red, it looks like blood, but it's red wine that I puked up, and it's all over the floor. I missed the toilet. So I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing it with toilet paper. And Joe comes in with a tray with like bacon and sausage and eggs. And he takes one look at me, and I'm sitting there and I'm dry heaving over the toilet because just smelling the stale wine vomit that made me gag. So I'm sitting over the toilet dry heaving, but I have nothing to come up because I literally had puked everything up the night before. And he can just tell that I'm dope sick. And he looks at me, he's holding the tray, and he goes, hey man, what's up? I look at him, I'm like, Joe, I'm dope sick. He's like, all right, man. And his kids are running around upstairs watching cartoons and being little kids. They're probably like 4 and 5, something like that. He goes, all right, man, I got to take you out of here. It's like I said, it's like 6 or 7 in the morning. I'm like, Joe, where am I going to go? My grandma, he lives in the East Bay. My grandma lives in South City. And, you know, I'm like, are you going to take me to my grandma's house? He's like, no, I'll take you to the BART system, which is the subway system in San Francisco. I'm like, Joe, can I just stay here? I mean, my mom's going to come pick me up later. He's like, have her pick you up at the BART station and drops you off right in, like, on Market Street, which is like the Tenderloin. Pretty much the worst place that I could be dropped off dope sick at, you know, 7 in the morning. Well, I guess depending on how you look at it, I was actually happy to be dropped off on the Skid Row of San Francisco at that time in the morning because I wanted a cop. And the night before at the reading, whenever you do a reading, you can bring copies of your book, and they sell it, and they give you, some places take like a 40% split, and they let you keep 60%. Whatever the case, I had like $150 in my pocket that I had made the night before. So I had cash, and he ends up driving me to the BART station. I have cash in my pockets. The only thing I'm thinking about is scoring. I'm looking at him. I'm like, hey, are you mad at me, Joe? And he's like, it was really like corny dialogue. I mean, it was like some Lifetime shit. He's like, mad? No. Disappointed? Yes. And it was like so corny, and I was so dope sick. It was just so screechy to me. I'm just like, ugh, I don't even want to hear this right now. He's giving me a lecture about it. I'm just like, okay, man, I don't want to talk anymore. I just kind of like, slump into my chair. Takes me to the BART, and I know that I can score on the Tenderloin. I mean, it's like, Tenderloin is the easiest place to score drugs in America, straight up. I've done it in a dozen states, and the Tenderloin is the most out of control place I've ever seen. It's crazy. You see homeless people fucking on sleeping bags, like 11 a.m. And I'm not, like, anal sex, like crazy, crazy, grimy San Francisco shit. You see people shooting up everywhere. It's not like that in LA. You don't see people shooting up everywhere. The cops enforce stuff in LA. San Francisco, it's a fucking free-for-all. I swear to God, a butt-fucking conga line could go on the Tenderloin, and I don't think that anyone would blink a fucking eye. That's how out of control it is. Definitely prone for a sex riot. So, brings me to the Tenderloin, gives me a hug. I go, and I start blowing up Alex, because I'm like, Alex, where are you? I'm leaving him messages, and he's not picking up. Calling him over and over and over again. Finally, he calls me back. I'm like, Alex, I'm so sick, man. He's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm on the BART. He's like, dude, it's like 7 a.m. I'm like, I know. I'm sick, though, bro. Can you help me? He's like, look, I can't help you, but I have a friend that can meet you. Where are you going to be? I'm like, I'm going to get off on Market Street. He's like, cool. I'll have this guy meet you at the Burger King right there. He's like, just walk up the stairs on Market, walk up the stairs from the subway, go across the street, and there's a Burger King right there. He's going to meet you right there. I'm so weak, and I'm so dope sick. I'm just like, all right, thank you. We finally get there. I walk up the stairs that he told me about, and I start getting really nauseous. I'm throwing up acidic bile. That's how dope sick I am. And I remember seeing the guy, because he's kind of like waving me down. Alex, I probably told him what I was wearing, for whatever reason, he's waving me down. And I'm looking at him, and he looks so far away, but he's probably like 15 feet in front of me, and I'm just like, I'm throwing up acidic bile, and he's just like, oh my God. So I've never met this guy. He runs up to me. He's like, dude, are you all right? I'm like, no, dude, I'm sick. He's like, all right. And I was like, here. And I just like pull out like $50 out of my pocket. I'm like, here you go, man. He's like, oh no, I don't have it on me. I'm like, what do you mean? Alex said you were meeting me with something. He's like, yeah, I'm taking you to get something. I'm like, no. You're not even a connection. You're just some guy that's going to take me to get drugs. I'm on the fucking Tenderloin. I don't even need you. I can ask anybody. That old lady in a wheelchair, she probably has a quarter pound on her. Everybody on the Tenderloin has drugs. This guy's just like, look, I can take you to get good dope. Now he's talking all like soothing. I hate when people do that when you're dope sick. It's like patronizing you. It's going to be fine, brother. It's like, you don't know how I feel right now. So anyway, so we go like 2 blocks. And he's like, all right, give me the money. Now, normally, I would never give somebody money without having the dope in my hand. But I was so dope sick, and this was Alex's friend, I give it to him. And he goes across the street, comes back a couple minutes later, and he gives it to me. It's a gram. I'm like, gram for $50. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, do you have any rigs? And he had rigs. He gave me some. And he's like, can you break me off a little bit? I'm like, yeah. So I give him a little piece of this dope and give him just a little piece of this gram. I give it to him, and he has a cooker, and I'm like, hey, where can we go get well? I'm talking to him, and I turn, and he's not there anymore. And I look, and he's just on the ground, kneeling down, shooting up right in the middle, like right on the sidewalk. There's literally cops driving down the street. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, they don't care. And they really don't. Cops do not care there. And I'm like, well, all right. So I drop down, I kneel down, I start cooking up a shot, and I get well right there, right on the sidewalk. Alex ends up calling me again, and he's like, hey, I'm going to come meet you down there. Where are you going to be? Go to the library. I'll meet you at the library. I'm like, all right. And so I start kind of wandering through the Tenderloin. And like I had said, it's like a drug marketplace. People are saying like really obscure drugs. You know, they're like hydrocodone, Oxycontin, GHB, Molly, PCP. People are just saying that as you're walking by. And like, it's like just this huge drug marketplace. So I'm walking and I'm hearing all these drugs and it's all enticing. And someone's like, I got crack rocks. And I'm like, ooh. And I like halt real quick. I'm like, hey, can I get a 40 rock off? He was like, yeah. And he's like this, you know, he's like this older black guy. He's like, yeah, man, I got you. Missing all his teeth. He spits it out. And I buy a straight shooter off him. So he's like, hey, you need a place to blast off there? I'm like, sure. So he's like, here, follow me to this tent. Follow me to this tent. I'm like, all right. So I go with him to this tent, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm just smoking crack with this guy. And he's like matching me. I know it's not like weed where you match bowls. You don't match crack rocks, but it's kind of what he's doing. Like, I'm packing a fat one, taking a blast, and then he packs one for me, and we just kind of keep smoking. And we end up smoking all my money. And I'm out, you know, like within 45 minutes, I spent the 50 on the heroin, and then I spent the other 100 all on crack. Smoke a shitload of crack, and now I'm coming down, and I'm waiting for Alex. And I'm in this tent, and this, you know, this black guy's like, yeah, I think I can get here a push. And I'm just like watching him with the clothes hanger going in and moving the Brillo and trying to get like what little, you know, little fragments of cocaine that he can muster up, right? And it all just kind of hit me at once. You know, I started coming down, because that's what happens with crack. It literally catapults you with endorphins. You just get this fat rush. It takes you so high up that when you come down, it's a very, very violent come down. It's a lot worse than when you snort cocaine. It's just like shooting it. You know, you get a very, very, very vicious come down from smoking crack. And reality just started hitting me. This guy's talking about, well, maybe I can get this push. I'm in a tent with this toothless crackhead dude. Just a week ago, I was engaged. I had a Yorkie, drove a X5 BMW. I was about to get married, and I lived in a very nice condo in in Encino, California. Nice part of the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. And now I'm in a crack. Now I'm in a tent smoking. Now I'm in a crack. Now I'm in a tent smoking crack with this toothless guy. It just all hit me at once. And I just pissed off Jo Clifford, my first time meeting him. And I just had a breakdown. It was like a moment of clarity. Maybe not even a moment of clarity, just a moment of you know, kind of disbelief of where things had taken me so quickly. And I get on my cell phone, and I call my friend Preston. Preston is one of my best friends. Been friends with him since I was 12, and he was working at a detox center in San Clemente, California called South Orange County Detox. And he had told me, you know, I'd called him maybe a few days before when I was trying out in Santa Barbara, and I told him what was going on with me, because he had called me and he wanted to play poker with me. And I was like, man, I'm you know, he's all on his clean and sober trip, and I'm like, look, you probably don't want to meet up with me. I'm strung out right now. You know, I'm not the kind of guy when I'm using, I want to take other people down with me, you know. If my friends are clean, I respect that, and I keep my distance. So that's why I told him about it. And at that point, he told me that he was working for this detox in Orange County, and that he could get me a scholarship. This is like a $30,000 a month program. He'd get me a scholarship into it if I wanted to get clean. Now, remember, my parents wanted me to get treatment. Casey was pushing for me to get treatment, saying that she wouldn't even consider getting back with me unless I went to detox. But just the thought of going to detox was so like unappealing to me. I didn't even consider it. But now that I was in this tent with the toothless crackhead, I was like, you know, maybe it's time that I see if Preston will actually honor that offer. So I called him, and I remember I was crying. I was in tears when I called him, and I'm just like, I'm in a tent with a toothless crackhead, and toothless crackhead is just looking at me. He's like, I'm just like, oh my God. I like step out. I'm like, dude, I need help. And he's like, I'm glad you called. I got you. I can definitely get you a bed for free. Come on down. It's going to be the best thing you ever did. You've only, you know, I'd only been out now. I've been on like a 2-week run at this point. He's like, you've only been out for 2 weeks. You can take it on the chin, get back to where you were before this. You get Casey back, get your parents' trust back, get your dignity back. You're smoking crack in a tent on the fucking Tenderloin. Think about it, man. You're blowing it. Right when my career was just starting to get like a little bit of momentum. And we will get into what happens in detox, what happens with Casey, when we get to the next installment of the Relapse video series. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate your support. Be sure to like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you're feeling so kind, hit me with a donation. I appreciate you. Until next time, Palabra.